Underneath the veneer of mysticism and historical grandeur, ancient Egypt was not always the most fun place in the world to live. The pharaohs of Egypt. You must have at least once heard of them. Of all past kings, Egyptian pharaohs had the most opulent lifestyle. They were so strong that many believed they were immortal. They were treated like gods because of their opulent lifestyle and fortune. They ate the finest stuff available. They took baths in milk, honey, and gold. Thousands would kneel in front of them. In their own honor, they created statues and monuments. After passing away, they were interred in buildings that are still considered modern wonders of the world. They had complete freedom to act however they pleased. However, sit back because you're about to find out some of their wildest bizarre actions. Mummies used to commonly be eaten as a medicine in Egypt. Cannibalism is considered to be the absolute worst taboo by the majority of people. The majority of people find the thought of eating human flesh repugnant, especially in situations where there is no other option. People still speak in hushed tones about events like the Donner Party, where they would have been forced to their limits and probably only consumed those who were already dead. They are scared at the thought of having to make such a terrible choice. Yet, a craze swept through Europe in the 1600s and 1700s where individuals began consuming crushed-up pieces of human flesh in an effort to treat various illnesses. In the beginning, people would break up mummies and put them in tinctures, claiming they could treat a variety of ailments. But eventually they would start drinking blood to treat diseases related to the blood and even fragments of smashed skull to treat brain issues. Although most people today find this repulsive, there was a time in Europe when eating other people's corpses was regarded as entirely acceptable and even beneficial to one's health. The Egyptian pharaoh known as Ramses was revered as being eternal. Many believed he would live forever due to his advanced age, fertile state, and lively bedtime behavior. More statues and monuments than any other king were created by him. The fact that he had more affairs with women than any other emperor is more intriguing. He had at least 9 wives and 100 offspring at the time of his death, which occurred when he was 91 years old. Every attractive woman he discovered he married. He would only sign peace agreements with opponents once they agreed to let him wed their daughter. Are you not surprised yet? Even his own daughters were wed to him. In ancient Egypt, it was thought to be quite effective to prevent pregnancy to cover the vagina with a paste made primarily of honey and crocodile excrement. In spite of the fact that it would actually be more likely to increase the risk of pregnancy, for some reason they decided that this was an effective spermicide. While it is understandable that they thought it would have been effective as birth control given the information available at the time, it is terrible to think about how frequently they would have to physically come into contact with crocodile feces on their most private parts. Well, it sounds disgusting, but listen out. The acidic manure may act as a spermicide. On the other hand, any bugs in it could be killed by honey, which is an antibacterial. So, this could have been the best bet for a good birth control and low infection rates. In fact, several ancient Indian ladies used elephant dung. As you can see, they made the best of what was available. Self-pleasure into the Nile River is one of the most strange things that Egyptian pharaohs have ever done. The godlike kings of ancient Egypt had a tradition of discharging some fertile substances into the Nile River. They explained this by claiming that the kings were enhancing the river. The crop that was grown using this improved water was amazing. Or at least that's what the Egyptians thought. One of the Egyptian pharaohs was Pepi. He did indeed indulge in luxury and enrich the Nile with baby gravy. Yet, he is well known for covering his slaves with honey. He has a history of being a gourmand. He liked to eat and take a sun bath in order to relax. He did, however, detest flies. He didn't enjoy flies in particular when he was eating because he had to wipe them off his face. So he had a fantastic thought. He made his honey-covered slave stand next to him as he consumed. He ate his supper quietly because honey attracted all the flies. This strategy was so successful that there was at least one slave covered in honey in each of the palace's rooms. Therefore, having money can make even the smallest annoyances disappear from your life. Of course, the pharaohs needed defense against foes and evils given their godlike stature. One could assume that their guardians would be the strongest members of their civilizations. But this is untrue. Cats served as the pharaoh's guardians. In ancient Egypt, cats were revered as sacred creatures. Cats were a crucial component of religious rituals. Egyptians thought cats killed venomous animals like snakes and werewolves. They thought that cats shielded their kings from demons. As a result, cats were revered and held in high regard. In a cemetery in central Egypt, there are a lot of mummified cats to be found. This highlights their significance even further. Pharaohs are frequently portrayed in Egyptian art as being trim and statuesque, yet this was probably not the case. The beer, wine, bread, and honey-based Egyptian diet was heavy in sugar, and studies suggest that it may have had an adverse effect on royal waistlines. Numerous Egyptian kings were found to be sickly, overweight, and even diabetic after mummy examinations. The fabled Queen Hatshepsut, who reigned in the 15th century BC, is a prime example. Historians contend that she was actually heavy and balding, despite the fact that her sarcophagus portrays her as thin and athletic. As old as civilization itself, vanity has existed, and the ancient Egyptians were no different. Both men and women had a reputation for donning a lot of makeup because they thought it would grant them protection from the gods Horus and Ra. The coal used in these cosmetics was created by processing ores such malachite and galena. Then it was lavishly applied using tools made of wood, bone, and ivory around the eyes. Both sexes used perfumes made of oil, myrrh, and cinnamon, and women would also use henna to dye their hands and fingernails and stain their cheeks with crimson paint. The Egyptians believed their makeup had magical healing powers, and they weren't entirely wrong. Research has shown that the lead-based cosmetics worn along the Nile actually helped stave off eye infections. Sesostris, one of Egypt's finest generals, is renowned for having won several significant battles. He engaged in combat all over the known world in an effort to expand his realm, but his signature move was to erect a monument made out of someone's genitalia following each victory. He saw these structures as a testament to his accomplishments. These memorials were left by Sesostris on each battlefield. He would also leave the opposing troops with a review. He would adorn the monument with a depiction of a penis if the adversaries were formidable and did not yield readily. That was his way of expressing respect for the formidable foe. However, he would etch a portrait of a vagina on the monument if the resistance wasn't too challenging to defeat. He used this to evaluate his rivals. These monuments in Syria, which were known as genitals of failure, are still surviving today even after 1500 years.